I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the kitchen, staring at the photo. The timestamp burned into my brain like a scar. I zoomed in and noticed details no one else would have seen. Caleb's wristwatch on the nightstand, her chipped nail polish, the smug curve of her lips. By morning, I wasn't heartbroken. I was surgical. Lena had been part of every corner of my life. She knew my passwords, my favorite wine, the stories I told no one else. She was the person I called when my mother died. When Caleb proposed, I asked her to help plan the surprise. And all along, she was sleeping with him. I didn't confront her right away. That would have been too easy. I wanted her to feel it, to see the unraveling of everything she thought was secure, slowly and with precision. Step 1. I went silent. No texts, no calls, no reaction. That alone started to shake her. I knew her patterns, her guilt reflex. She'd start to spiral if I didn't give her control of the narrative. 3 days later, she left a gift bag at my door. Inside, a bottle of wine, a card that said, "Thinking of you," and a bracelet I'd once admired at a boutique. I smiled. It wasn't remorse. It was panic. She thought she could smooth this over, that I'd cry, scream, maybe even forgive her eventually. She didn't know I was already building a blueprint. I began collecting things, screenshots, old messages, even a backup of her phone she once saved on my laptop. I found hundreds of texts between her and Caleb, some dating back months. They joked about me, called me clueless. The fire inside me wasn't rage anymore. It was purpose. I wasn't going to key her car or post screenshots online. That's the kind of revenge people expect. Messy, emotional, temporary. No, I would dismantle her. The same way she dismantled my trust, my marriage, my peace. Bit by bit, I started with her job. She worked at a non-profit that cared deeply about public image. I found financial irregularities in a project budget she'd once asked me to review, just for grammar. I flagged it anonymously to their board. Then I reconnected with her ex, the one she ghosted and cheated on 2 years ago. Turns out he had stories and receipts, screenshots, videos, even emails she'd sent while she was with him and seeing Caleb. He handed them to me with a grin. But I wasn't doing this for drama. I had a timeline, a strategy, because I knew something she didn't. This wasn't about getting even. It was about rewriting the end of my story, not as the woman who was betrayed, but as the one who took her power back and left a trail of ashes behind. This is how I did it, and I don't regret a single moment. I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, raised by a single mom who taught me to be strong, polite, and never let people see you break. That advice became my armor, not a shield to hide behind, but a kind of quiet steel. The world didn't hand anything to women like my mother or me. You earned it, or you outlasted it. I was an introvert by nature, not shy, just observant, calculated. My mom worked 2 jobs, so I spent a lot of time alone, figuring out how to solve problems before they started. That's where I learned control, planning, the value of silence. Then I met Lena Morris during freshman orientation at UNC. She was everything I wasn't: loud, bold, a whirlwind of charisma. She could make friends in a checkout line. I didn't trust her at first. She was too magnetic, too polished in her chaos. But she stuck to me like Velcro. And slowly, I let her in. We became inseparable, roommates by sophomore year, party partners, late night confidants, career cheerleaders. Where I was measured, she was impulsive. But somehow, it worked. We balanced each other. She once said, "You're the anchor, M. Without you, I'd drift." After graduation, we took a risk and launched our own event planning company, Mint and Rose. I handled logistics, budgets, vendor negotiations. Lena was the creative, mood boards, themes, client pitches. She could sell a backyard wedding like it was a royal gala. It was hard work, but it was ours. We built a brand people started to notice. I thought we'd grow old as business partners, maybe buy a little studio, joke about our college days when we were old and grey. Then I met Caleb. It was at one of our first big events, a corporate mixer at a tech firm downtown. He wasn't the flashiest guy in the room, but there was a steadiness to him. He didn't flirt. He asked thoughtful questions. He listened. He texted me that same night. Not some late night, "you up" nonsense. A real message. Thoughtful. Respectful. Lena approved instantly. "He's not your usual type," she'd laughed. But maybe that's the point. 2 years later, we were married. A small wedding, mostly friends and a few clients turned friends. Lena was my maid of honor, of course. She helped design the invitations, picked the flowers, calmed me down when the cake arrived with the wrong filling. Her speech still haunts me. She talked about loyalty, about friendship outlasting everything. "Emily is the most solid person I know," she'd said, wiping a tear. "She saved me from myself more times than I can count." And I believed her. Life moved fast after that. Caleb and I bought a cozy craftsman bungalow on the edge of town. The business picked up. I started feeling, for the first time in a long time, like I could exhale. But slowly, the cracks formed. Lena started showing up late to client meetings with flimsy excuses. A flat tire, a lost phone, a hangover she tried to disguise with energy drinks. She stopped following up on tasks. I picked up her slack, assuming it was a phase, a burnout. I made excuses for her the way you do when someone's family. Caleb, too, changed. He started working late, traveling more. He'd come home exhausted, distracted, his phone always face down on the counter. I asked gentle questions. He offered plausible answers. And I wanted so badly to believe them, because that's what love does. It edits the truth until it's palatable. You stitch over the loose threads and pretend the fabric is still whole, I told myself. Lena was just overwhelmed. Caleb was just tired. The business was just in a rough patch. Life ebbs and flows, right? You don't give up on the people you love just because things get hard. But I ignored the details, the overlapping lies, the way Caleb always seemed to know where Lena had been before she told me. The scent of my perfume on her coat, the same one I'd lost months ago, and she claimed she never saw. I kept shrinking my instincts down to nothing, because the alternative, the truth, would mean my whole foundation was a lie. And then came the text, a random number, 6 words. "You should know the truth now." I opened it, expecting maybe a spam link or a disgruntled client trying to rattle me. Instead, I found the photo. Caleb, Lena, my bed, my sheets, my life. There's a moment after the bomb drops where everything goes still. The body doesn't react. The mind floats just above reality, as if refusing to land. I felt that stillness for a full minute. Then I stood up. I poured out the wine I had poured just minutes earlier. I deleted the text. I backed up the image. I looked in the mirror, and I didn't see a woman who was broken. I saw someone dangerous, and in that quiet, sharp moment, I decided they would both learn exactly what it felt like to be dismantled, one move at a time. That anonymous text shattered my carefully curated life. The photo was graphic. intimate, unmistakable. My husband, my best friend. Caleb's back was turned, but I'd know his posture anywhere. The curve of his spine, the birthmark on his shoulder. And Lena, her face was angled toward the camera, lips parted in a smug, satisfied half smile that twisted my stomach. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared, heart pounding like a war drum in my chest, heat rising up my neck into my ears. Then I typed a message with shaking fingers. Just 3 words. Come over, now. She showed up 14 minutes later, holding coffee, smiling, like nothing had happened, like my world hadn't just imploded. I watched her walk into my kitchen, drop her bag by the bar stool like she always did. You look pale, she said, brow furrowed with faux concern. Everything okay? I didn't respond. I just slid my phone across the counter. She picked it up, tapped the screen, and the photo filled the frame. I watched her face carefully. That microsecond freeze, the faint twitch in her jaw before she caught herself and tried to paint over it with DA. Emily, I don't know what that is. She laughed nervously, eyes darting away from mine. It must have been a joke, or a deep fake or something. And when that didn't land, she switched gears. Okay, it was a mistake. We were drunk. It happened once, and it meant nothing. I swear to God. I laughed. Loudly, harshly. That bitter, hollow kind of laugh that feels like broken glass in your throat. A mistake, I said. That was my bed. My home. She tried to reach for me. I flinched away like she was fire. I'm sorry, she said again, quieter this time. Please, don't hate me. I didn't yell. I didn't call her names. I didn't even let the tears fall. I simply pointed to the door. And she left. No apology could have stitched the severed artery between us. 20 minutes later, I began packing Caleb's things. I didn't wait for him to come home. I dropped everything. Suits, shoes, toothbrush, even the socks with holes he refused to throw out, into garbage bags and dumped them on the front lawn. I didn't leave a note. I didn't answer his calls. His silence after I sent him the same photo was all I needed. He didn't even try to deny it. But here's the thing. It wasn't the betrayal that broke me. It was what came next. 3 weeks passed. I tried to survive the days with mechanical precision. Work, coffee, emails, sleep. My body functioned. My soul didn't. And then I saw them. Together. In public. At a downtown restaurant we used to go to. Lena, sitting in my seat, laughing at his jokes, touching his hand across the table. There was no shame, no hiding, no remorse. They had moved on, like I was a footnote in their love story. That was the moment everything inside me went still. Grief fell away. What replaced it was not rage, it was clarity. Cold, calm, lethal clarity. They thought they had won, that I would crumble, disappear, cry in silence while they played house in the ruins they made. But they didn't know who I really was. They had mistaken my quiet for weakness. They had no idea what I was capable of. Because when I hurt, I don't explode. I calculate. And I had just decided I wouldn't get even. I would get ahead. At first, I tried to move on. Therapy twice a week. Journaling like my life depended on it. Long walks through the park with podcasts about healing and acceptance playing in my ears. It felt performative, like I was playing the role of the emotionally mature woman who takes the high road. But underneath it all, I was bleeding out. You can't bandage a bullet wound with mindfulness. Grief is heavy, but betrayal, that kind of betrayal, it's corrosive. And just when I thought I'd hit bottom, the floor gave way again. It started with a flagged payment from our business bank account. A consulting fee I didn't recognize. Lena had handled most of our invoicing the last few months. She said she was streamlining the system. I dug deeper. There were irregular withdrawals, duplicate charges, fake vendor names tied to shell email accounts. And then I saw it. Caleb's name, listed as a vendor, paid $3,200 for security consultation. My hands were shaking. I checked the date. It was 2 weeks before I caught them. They didn't just stab me in the back. They were draining me dry while they did it. The heartbreak had been personal. But this was war. I made my decision that night. Revenge wouldn't be a single act, not something messy and emotional that would fade with time. No, this would be a slow burn, a transformation. I opened a fresh digital folder on my laptop and named it Resurrection. Inside, I started building the case, methodically, like a detective. Screenshots, PDFs, voicemails, email backups, every fake invoice, every bank transfer, every appointment Lena missed, every vendor she never paid but claimed she had. I wanted the whole picture. While Lena posted sun-drenched selfies and captioned them with healing energy, I was quietly dismantling her life. I reached out to a corporate attorney under the pretense of selling my half of Mint and Rose. I kept it light, casual, told him I was burned out and ready to pivot. But I slipped in a few key questions about fraud. Could I investigate irregularities? What if I found proof? Could I push her out legally? Everything. His tone turned serious. If what you're describing is true, he said, you could file a civil suit, potentially even press criminal charges. I thanked him, scheduled a follow-up. Then I started phase one. Emotionally, I played the part. I posted vague, upbeat quotes on Instagram. Sometimes endings are new beginnings. I sent Lena a text that simply read, "No hard feelings. Thank you for finally showing me the truth." She responded with a heart emoji. She actually thought I'd forgiven her. I even liked one of her photos, her and Caleb drinking mimosas on a rooftop. And all the while, I was tying the rope. I contacted two former clients. Both women Lena had ghosted months earlier, forcing me to clean up the mess. One had to rebook her entire engagement party because Lena never confirmed the florist. The other lost her deposit after Lena forgot a venue walkthrough. Both were furious, and both agreed to testify. With their statements, my lawyer filed the civil case, breach of fiduciary duty and misappropriation of funds. We had more than enough evidence. But I wanted it to hit hard, publicly. So we waited until a Sunday. She was at brunch, of course, wearing sunglasses too big for her face and a smug little smile, sitting across from Caleb like they were the golden couple. The process server approached the table, calm, unbothered. "Lena Morris?" She nodded. "You've been served," right in front of half the city's weekend brunch crowd. Caleb's smile fell off his face like wet paper. She looked down at the envelope in her hands, confusion twisting to panic. And I watched it all from my car down the street. That was phase one, but I wasn't done, not even close. The lawsuit was just a crack in her carefully curated world. I wanted to watch the whole thing collapse. I went back into the financials, found more. She'd used business funds for spa days, plane tickets, even an Airbnb in Asheville for creative retreat weekends, all while telling me she was working from home. I found proof she billed our company for fake contractors, one of which had Caleb's old college address. Every lie she told me had a digital footprint. While my lawyer worked the case, I worked the court of public opinion. Subtly, of course. I reached out to a lifestyle blog that once featured us as local girl bosses. I told them, anonymously, that Lena was under civil investigation for business fraud. I sent them the court filing, made sure the receipts were airtight. They ran the story. Within 24 hours, it was everywhere. Suddenly, Lena's perfect little brand was radioactive. Clients pulled out. Vendors cut ties. Sponsorships dried up. She went quiet online, deleted her Instagram for 2 weeks. Caleb, ever the coward, tried reaching out to me a few days later. Sent an email titled, "Can we talk?" I didn't open it. I didn't need closure. I wasn't mourning anymore. I was rebuilding, smarter, sharper, and I was far from finished. Because there's something beautiful about rock bottom. No one sees you coming when you rise. They expected me to fall apart. They had no idea I'd turned the ruins into strategy. And that was the real beginning. The court hearing was brutal for her. I walked in calm, controlled, every paper in my folder labeled and color coded. Lena, on the other hand, looked like a storm had blown through her. Hair too perfect, face too stiff with panic hiding just beneath her makeup. Caleb wasn't with her. He didn't even show. My lawyer led the charge. Exhibits A through K, fake invoices, diverted payments, bank records matching deposits to her personal Venmo, client emails she never responded to, and the crown jewel, a text message she'd sent me 6 months ago. "I'm just borrowing from the business for now. I'll put it back before EOY, promise." The moment that message was read aloud, I saw the shift in the judge's eyes. Her lawyer tried spinning it as a misunderstanding between friends, said we were resolving it internally. I let them talk. Then I spoke, calm, precise, no theatrics, just facts. I explained the breach of trust, the financial losses, the misrepresentation to clients. I even had 2 former clients in the courtroom who gave brief, damning statements. By the time I finished, the only thing Lena's side had left was silence. The judge ruled in my favor. She was ordered to pay damages and legal fees. I was awarded full control of Mint and Rose, plus an injunction barring her from accessing any of the business's accounts or materials ever again. It was done. She didn't look at me when the gavel dropped, but I looked at her, not with hate, with something worse, indifference. She wasn't my best friend anymore. She wasn't even my enemy. She was nothing. But Caleb, I still owed him something. He had glided through most of this untouched, kept his head down, tried to fade into the background. That wouldn't do. He worked for a high-profile real estate firm, glossy buildings, high-end clients, very curated public image, and more importantly, a strict moral conduct clause. They couldn't afford scandal. So I gave them one. I compiled a folder, just like I had for Lena. Photos, timestamps, screenshots of hotel receipts billed to my company, Venmo logs where Lena labeled transfers with a S email. No commentary, just evidence. He was fired within the week. No announcement, no public drama, just a quiet update to the team directory and a LinkedIn job status change. Open to work. I didn't gloat. I didn't say a word. I just watched from a distance as their picture-perfect life cracked, then splintered, then crumbled. Lena tried to call me 3 days later, then again the next morning. Texted me once. "Please, can we just talk?" I didn't answer. A week after that, a letter showed up at my door, handwritten, in blue ink. The opening line made my stomach turn. I miss our friendship. I miss you. I read the first paragraph. Then I lit a match and burned it in the sink. No dramatic speech, no closure, just ash, because some things don't deserve a response. I wasn't looking for peace anymore. I'd found something better: freedom, and the kind of quiet that only comes after fire. It wasn't about getting even. Not really. It was about reclaiming something that had been quietly chipped away at for years. The version of myself I'd buried under compromise, loyalty, and self doubt. After the dust settled, I renamed the business. The name, Mint and Rose, was too tied to her, to who we used to be. I needed a clean break, something that felt like mine. I chose August Studio. For the month, everything burned down, and for the strength it took to rise from it, I found a small office space downtown with exposed brick and tall windows. I painted the walls myself, bought a second-hand desk and a plant I named Ruth. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine, and clients came back. Slowly at first, then steadily. Word spread. People noticed the shift in the branding, the tone, in me. I wasn't just trying to rebuild, I was evolving. I started mentoring younger women, fresh graduates, new business owners, freelancers still afraid to charge their worth. I taught them what no textbook had ever taught me: how to protect yourself, how to see red flags before they bleed you dry, how to build something so sturdy betrayal doesn't break it, it just makes it stronger. Therapy helped. So did silence. There's something sacred about your own company when you stop running from it. For months, I let myself be quiet. No forced dinners, no pretending. I cooked for one, took long walks, listened to music I used to love before it reminded me of him. I made space for grief without letting it consume me. People always ask, would you do it all again? Yes, but differently. I would have trusted my gut sooner, drawn boundaries faster, chosen myself earlier. But I don't regret the fire. Because I didn't just get revenge. I built something from the ashes. Not a new life. A deeper one. Not a new self. Just the real one. Finally visible beneath all the versions I created to make other people comfortable. I became a woman who could be gutted and still walk into a room with her head high. A woman who knew the taste of betrayal but didn't let it make her bitter. Who learned that survival isn't about being unbreakable. It's about knowing how to rebuild after the break. Piece by piece, brick by brick, not softer, but wiser and never, ever small again. Sometimes I think about Lena's smile, how warm it used to feel, how real it seemed. But memory has sharp edges when you look at it long enough. Now, I know better. That smile wasn't warmth. It was a warning I didn't recognize. A quiet flare from someone who knew exactly how to disarm me. She smiled when she lied. She smiled when she stole. She smiled when she stood beside me in a white dress and toasted my marriage with hollow words. And I smiled too, because I believed her. That was the part that hurt the most. Not the betrayal, but how blind I had been to it. But I don't hate her anymore. Hate is heavy, and I've set down everything that weighs more than it teaches. I let her go, not for her, for me, but I never forgot what she taught me. Some betrayals don't come with knives. They come wrapped in shared secrets, inside jokes, and Sunday brunches. They come with smiles, and when mine finally came back, it wasn't the soft one she remembered. It was sharp, cold, purposeful, because I smiled right back while I took everything she built on my back and burned it to the ground. Then I walked away from the flames, free,